I'm Lynn Weber, and this is Down on the Farm. Today I'm visiting a century farm that focuses on a whole different kind of livestock. I'm sitting down with Ted Pickering at his Chetwynd farm on Clawson Road. Thanks for taking the time to tell me about your farm.
It's my pleasure.
Now, can you give me a little background on yourself and on Shauna Seabrick?
We're both from retail backgrounds, both of us having spent many years in retail. Shauna was in the fashion industry as a buyer, and I had a range of stores in the Greater Toronto area in the 80s. And one of our dreams was always to have some sort of a business that we could grow into and would have a lifestyle that matched what we wanted to do on a day-to-day basis. And in that I'm self-employed now, we are trying to build a business based on a sustainable farm concept, and that's where we're at today.
When did you move to the county?
5 years ago, we were looking for a property to replace a cottage that we had up north. And we literally drew a 2-hour circumference around Toronto because we were still doing work back and forth. And we landed on Prince Edward County. And so we began a search here, and because we were coming from a cottage property, we were actually looking for something on the water. But we met our real estate agents here at 500 Clawson and loved the house. And so that was the beginning 5 years ago.
And this is a century farm.
It is, yeah.
Tell us about this interest you have in raising alpacas. How did you get into that idea?
Well, we had a romantic illusion of farming, and we had the farm property that we wanted to keep as agricultural. So we were looking for some sort of farm business that would keep the agricultural status, that was still manageable because we were going back and forth to the city. And we both have an interest in handcrafted, and Shauna, my wife, she has a particular interest in fiber arts. So we landed on alpaca because of the quality of fleece. The alpaca has over 22 different natural shades of fleece. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting from that standpoint. And we also wanted on the farm an animal that we didn't necessarily have to slaughter to make a business out of. Mm-hmm. So with the alpaca, we know is the animal that's the right fit for us.
They're members of the camel family, native to the Andes.
Correct.
So they should be adapted to our climate quite...
Interestingly enough, they prefer our winters over our summers because of that reason. They're a mountainous animal. Mm-hmm. So they do very well in our harsh, cold winters. But it's the summer that they find difficult because of the humidity and the amount of days in a row where it's hot. Mm-hmm. We do shear them once a year. We're coming up to shearing season the first weekend of May. So they'll get an annual shearing, and as long as we provide them with water and some sort of run-in or a shaded area, they do okay in the heat.
Do you shear them yourself?
We don't shear them. That's a skill we haven't learned yet. But we have, fortunately, we have mentors who we bought the alpaca from, and they do a full breeding program, and they also do shearing. So they've been guiding us along. This is a new business for us. We've only been in it for 3 years. We originally were going to start it with 3, but we fell in love with 2 other ones when we were at the farm. So we came back with 5. We're up to 9 this year, but we're only 3 years into really as an alpaca business.
So these other 4, were they born here, or did you buy 4 more?
They were born here. What we're trying to do is we started with the 5 that we could afford at the time. And we're constantly looking at how we're going to improve the breeding and bring it up so that the quality of the fleece continues to improve over the years too. So we will buy and sell, but our focus is actually to have births on the farm so that we know the history of the animal.
Now, I want to ask you about that because I wasn't sure if you'd bought all of your animals or whether you were having them here on the farm. Mm-hmm. Is it actually true that they generally give birth in the daytime?
It is remarkable that they not only give birth during the day, it's usually in the morning, and it's only in good weather.
Oh.
And we know from experience from the last 2 years of having cria, which is the name for the babies, that it is in fact true that they will be born between 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning on a sunny day, and it will be up and walking within half an hour. And the reason, so we're told the reason for that is that the cria will have the day to get used to the cold, what would be the cold in their native land, mm-hmm. of nightfall. So they are fully developed and engaged as a cria by nightfall. And one year, last year, it was an overcast day, and I went into Picton to do shopping, and I came back within an hour, there was a cria on the ground. The sun had come out, and there it was.
And the mothers, they don't seem to have a very difficult time giving birth in a way. They just wander around grazing while it's all going on.
They do. So you'll see some subtle changes in their behavior as they get closer to a due date, and you know roughly what the due date's going to be. And it's fascinating to watch. They'll go out in the morning after feeding, and they'll maybe just move a little slower than they normally would, but otherwise, it's a beautiful thing to watch, really.
And the mother doesn't particularly have to get the afterbirth off it. She doesn't do anything. It just rolls around, gets it off by itself.
That's right. As long as the airways are all clear and there's no obvious signs of trauma or anything, it's a very easy birth for both mother and the cria.
That's really amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah. Now, do you have a male alpaca? Or?
We've had 3 born here on the farm. So with alpaca, you would want to separate the boys from the girls because the boys are quite aggressive. And there's lots of alpaca farms that will have both on the farm. We're weighing the pros and cons of whether or not we want to separate the herd logistically for pen space and things like that, or whether or not we want to just concentrate on the females and then sell off the males. Having said that, however, one of our male cria is a beautiful black color, and black is rare in alpaca for fleece production. So we could go the route of incorporating the boys into our breeding program and use them for studs for future.
Now, I also understand that the gestation period is so long. It's 11 months, is that true?
It is, that's right.
That is really amazing.
It is amazing. So for obvious reasons, you have to plan that so that you're not having a cria born in September, October, because it would be too cold for the cria going into the winter months. So you have to strategically plan when you're going to breed. And so all of ours will be on the ground in June, July this year. It's a very interesting thing to watch because when we had the 5 originally, we were breeding 3, and the breeder would come here with the studs that we chose. And again, we're choosing for a lineage, and we're choosing for improving our fiber quality. So the male alpaca comes into the barnyard, and around they go until the dam will go down for him. And after about a week or so, they will bring the male back into the paddock. And if the female spits at the male, it's usually a sign that the pregnancy has taken.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, the female will go back down. That's right, exactly.
Yeah. But she ovulates because he has just done the deed.
Correct. Yeah.
What do you feed them?
Well, they exist primarily on pasture. We feed them in the winter months hay that we take off the farm, which we've blended with a certain percentage of alfalfa and other grasses. And they get a very simple pellet as a treat at mealtime that gives them some of the nutrients that they wouldn't otherwise be getting from the grass. And we here are doing some fodder farming. I had a landscape business way back, and we grow quite a few things, pea shoots and things indoors for winter salads and things like that. So we thought we would try barley seed. And we put barley seed into trays, and we devised a system of watering it 4 times a day. And within a week, we get a beautiful tray of barley. And during the winter months, that gives them the fresh green, grass-like quality that they wouldn't otherwise get.
What are their personalities like? Do they like you to be around them, or do they put up with you being around them?
Well, each one is unique, and it is like livestock. It's an animal that grazes in the paddocks. However, there are many of them that will come up to you and want that human engagement. In fact, we have one Pippa who in the last year's become noted because she will come up to the fence and she'll nibble on your sleeve, and she loves that dialogue between human and animal. She would live in the house if we would let her. She's that kind of animal. But then there are other kinds who, are just happy to be fed and do their own thing and stay on their own. So each one very unique.
But they're not dangerous. They're never. I suppose the males might get aggressive if they were right in the thick of it.
Absolutely, the males will be aggressive, and they will spit at each other at feeding time if they feel that they're not getting enough feed. But other than that, they're a very gentle animal.
Living out here, I think you'd have to watch out for coyotes.
We do, and in fact, all of our fencing is predator fencing. It's buried down below, and we bring the alpaca into the barn. We have the old bank barn that we've jimmied up for alpaca. Many people would leave alpaca out in the predator-proof paddocks.
Sure.
But since we have the barn, we bring them in at night and we make sure they're secure at night.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you have horses.
We do, because horses are a natural way to keep the coyotes
good
away.
guard.
And we happen to ride too, so it's a double whammy.
Would the alpacas themselves, I mean, I know they're not very large. They're, what, about 125 pounds or something like that?
150, yeah.
Would they be big enough to keep coyotes off the crias by themselves?
Yes, I would suspect that they would probably put up a good fight. But we've never seen them so aggressive or vicious that we know that for sure. I know that, when they've seen activity in the field from a distance, they will, even more so than normal, they will come together as a herd, a very tight herd.
Right.
And they will all look and watch what's going on. But there's no hissing or there's no physical signs of, they're ready to do anything.
What do they like about your dog? Or more to the point, I guess, strange dogs. Are they...
Don't like strange dogs. And in fact, we had a deer come across the driveway 2 weeks ago, and all of the animals were on guard, the alpaca particularly.
Now, they also have a very strange hoof structure.
They do. They're toed animals. They're
Yes.
not hoofed animals. And so they leave a very light footprint on the soil. And for that reason, you can raise up to 5 alpaca in an acre and a half and be able to sustain them in that kind of area.
So they have a pad under their...
They do. It's a padded foot.
A padded foot.
Yeah.
And you trim their nails.
We do. It's part of the shearing process.
Oh, I see.
They get nail trimming. However, because we do bring them into the barn, and the barn has a concrete floor, we don't have to do as much toe maintenance as one would think we would. Whereas if they were out in the field all the time, then they would need a little more maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the fleece for a moment. Once you've got it off, do you card it yourselves, or do you send it somewhere and get it processed and then it's ready?
Well, we thought originally that it would be an easy process, and this has all been a very, very good learning experience. But the reality is, and part of the reason alpaca fleece and yarn is as expensive as it is because it's quite a process to get it off the animal and to the point where you can actually work with it. So it is carded, it's cleaned. We do a little bit of that for some of the things we're working with. Most of it gets graded, and there's various classifications of fleece depending on where it's coming from off the animal. And then its micro count is done, and there's a whole series of steps to get it to the point where it can actually go to the mill, and then it's processed in the mill to either yarn goods or felted products or things like that. And then it comes back to us, and then we do with it what we will.
It doesn't have lanolin like
It does
sheep's
not.
wool.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
so there's no, it's hyperallergenic. No lanolin, it's a hollow fiber. So it will actually give you more warmth in a lighter end product. And that's one of the beautiful things about alpaca is that it's a luxurious, but it's a very light finished product.
Now, there are 2 basic kinds of fleece from what I understand. There's suri, which is kind of long, silky, dreadlock
Crimped, that's right, yeah.
looking structure to it.
Correct.
And then there's, is it huacaya?
Wakaya, that's right.
And they
we
look-
only have wakaya here.
Do you?
That's actually
Yeah.
the animal, not necessarily the fleece.
Oh, I see.
So we only have the huacaya here. And huacaya seems to be the more prominent animal in North America. Certainly in Ontario, it's more prevalent, and that's probably due to the fact that the suri aren't quite as hardy as the
see.
huacaya
Yeah.
are, so it's a
Yeah.
better fit for here.
They look like they've been blow-dried.
They do. And they are. At showtime, or when we're doing shearing, we'll use a shop vac, and we'll blow out all the contaminants off the fleece.
What products do you produce for sale from your alpacas?
Well, we dabbled last year doing various markets and craft shows in the county and outside of the county just to get a sense of what kind of products we could, reasonably get enough raw goods in order to make. So 9 alpaca does not make an empire from fleece.
No, yeah.
So we are going to other alpaca farms in Ontario, and we are buying fleece that is suitable for yarn goods. And then we're having it all sent to the mill, and then it's all coming back. And we are about to work with, we have a knitting pool in the county
Oh, I
of
see.
people who knit for us. And then we're starting to work with a couple of designers in the county to come up with products that are unique to what we're looking for as far as alpaca products. But predominantly, wearables are the things that are best for alpaca. And alpaca is a luxurious fleece and it's an expensive product at the end. So we cherish the handmade component. So when you add the cost of alpaca, the handcrafted component of it, we are getting a very luxurious, beautiful product at the end. And most people understand that that's how it is.
Sure.
So for the most part, we're doing wearables. So we're doing cowls and hats and scarves and gloves and mittens and things like that. This year, we're going to move into duvets and pillows that are made from the fleece of the alpaca. And because there's so many different grades of fleece, those that are really, really good are what we use for those products. But all the way down the scale to the waste fleece, the fleece that is simply not good enough for making into anything, we actually are making bird feeders where you take the fleece and the birds will actually pull the fleece out of the bird feeder and they will use it for their nest. So right now, nesting season, you'll see we've got them all around the farm. You can see the birds coming and pulling out the fleece and then going to their nest. And alpaca poo is a commodity that has some immediate value to it. Unlike horse or cow or sheep manure, it's not hot. So it doesn't have to sit for a couple of years in order for it to be used. So we actually air cure it here in the farm and we grind it. And we make it into a powder substance that you can add to soil. And it has a 1-to-1 nutrient basis to it. So it's a fantastic enrichment for the soil. And then we also do it in tea bags where you can add it to water, let it steep for 24 hours, and then you have a liquid fertilizer. And we use that for transplanting seedlings and things like that here on the farm.
Now, where can people obtain these products?
Well, this year we're going to experiment with having our pop-up shop open on the farm. Certainly on Sundays and Mondays and Thursdays and Fridays. Saturday we're going to continue to do the Wellington Marketplace. And we're doing other craft shows and farmers markets around the area. But we have an old chicken coop on the property that we've converted into a shed, which is what we call the retail arm of what we're doing. And so we've converted it to provide a random selection of the products that we're going to be carrying this year.
And you have a website?
We do. We have an online store. It's shedchetwynfarms.com. And as we roll out new products, we keep updating the online store there.
And Chetwyn is Chetwyn?
Correct, and that is a Welsh expression for little cottage on Twisted Road. And here we are on Clawson Road.
Yes, it's twisted.
It is indeed.
Well, thank you very much for taking the time to tell me these things.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. Well, that was an experience. I had never seen alpacas in the flesh before, and they are lovely. I would very much like to thank Ted Pickering of Chetwyn Farm for his time. Chetwyn is located at 500 Clawson Road. I'd be remiss if I didn't also thank Pippa, the very forward white alpaca, for some big sloppy kisses. That's Down on the Farm for this week. I'm Lynn Weber. Thanks for listening, and I hope you'll join me again next Thursday on the County Grapevine.